Hello, I'm Will Shepherd. Welcome to my new series, Lucid Dreams, Threads of Eternity. Today, I am going to share the introduction to the 13-story series, followed by the first story in the series, Alana Goes Home. I hope you enjoy my magical lucid dreams. Prologue. I remember the exact evening like it was scored in music. It was late spring in Decatur, the kind of Georgia night where the jasmine climbed the porch rails and the air felt thick enough to taste. Alana sat at her baby grand just inside the open living room windows, the golden lamplight spilling out onto the boards where I leaned against a post with my old Martin across my lap. She was playing Clair de Lune. Her fingers moved like they knew secrets the notes themselves hadn't learned yet. I picked up the melody on guitar, soft and low, trying to stay out of her way the way she'd taught me. For a few measures we moved together, her light, me steady, bass line and melody, the way we always were. Then she stopped mid-phrase. The piano note hung in the air like a question. She turned on the bench, that small, knowing smile on her face, the one that always made me feel seen straight through to the hollow places. Her dark braid fell over one shoulder as she looked at me. "One day," she said softly, "the hollow man is going to learn to feel the whole orchestra, Will Shepherd. Even the silences." I laughed, the way you do when someone says something too true and too beautiful at the same time. "You giving me a prophecy, woman?" She just smiled wider and went back to the keys. I never forgot that night. Years later, sitting in a vinyl chair beside a hospital bed while machines played their own cruel metronome, I finally understood what she meant. Alana Goes Home. The monitors drone on like a metronome of an old, forgotten, melancholic melody. I sat in the vinyl chair beside her hospital bed in that Atlanta hospice wing, the one with the faded watercolor of dogwoods on the wall that Alana had pointed out on our first visit and called optimistic wallpaper. She'd smiled when she said it, even though the pain meds had already started turning her edges soft. That was 3 weeks ago. The terminal thing, the cancer that had been eating her from the inside like a slow, polite house guest, had been the main act. The stroke was just the encore nobody asked for. I held her hand, the one with the thin silver band we'd bought in a little shop in Savannah, because she said it felt like moonlight. Her fingers were cool now, the way they got when the nurses upped the drip. "Will," she'd whispered earlier that morning, eyes half open, seeing something I couldn't. "The harmony's still playing. Listen." I nodded like I understood, because in music I always had. That was the one place the hollow parts of me ever filled up. Not with people, not with small talk, not with the 1,000 ordinary feelings other men seemed to carry around like loose change. Only when my fingers found the fretboard of my old Martin, or when her voice braided with mine on some half-remembered folk tune, or when I sat on the floor beside her baby grand and let the notes she played wash straight through the cracks in my chest. Only then did something real rise up and sting behind my eyes. She knew it. She had always known it. The stroke hit at 2:17 p.m. I remember the exact minute because the clock on the wall clicked over and her grip tightened, then slackened like a string snapping. Alarms sang out. Nurses rushed in with that practiced calm that still feels like panic underneath. I stood back, hands useless at my sides, watching them work on the woman who had once spent an entire Saturday teaching me how to really listen to Coltrane. Not just hear the notes, but let them pry open the one door inside me that actually opened. "You feel it there, don't you?" she'd laughed, head on my shoulder after the last note died. "That's where the rest of you is hiding. One day, it'll learn to walk out into the daylight." They didn't save her. Complications, they said later. Blood clot, brain swelling, the body finally cashing in all those IOUs the illness had written. I signed papers. I called her sister in Charleston. I sat in the quiet room they gave me and stared at the floor until the tiles blurred into one long gray river. The funeral was a blur of casseroles and awkward hugs from people who didn't know what to say to the man who had lost his song. I shook hands, thanked them, and drove home alone in the truck that still smelled like her jasmine hand lotion. The house in Decatur felt bigger than physics allowed. Every room echoed. Her baby grand in the living room sat silent, sheet music still open to the Debussy she'd been working on the week before the final decline. I walked over, lifted the fallboard, and pressed middle C. The note rang clear and lonely, and for one treacherous second, the old spark flared, tears hot and sudden, the way they only ever came when music opened the door. Then the note faded, and the door slammed shut again. I poured 3 fingers of bourbon, sat on the couch, and didn't drink it. Instead, I wandered into the bedroom, opened the nightstand drawer, looking for nothing in particular, maybe just to touch something she'd touched last. There it was, a plain white envelope with my name in her looping script, the I in Will dotted with a tiny treble clef. She'd never given it to me. I sat on the edge of the bed, the mattress still holding the faint imprint where she'd slept, and slid my thumb under the flap. My dearest Will, if you're reading this, the music has carried me on to the next movement. Don't be angry that I didn't hand it to you sooner. Some songs only make sense when the conductor steps off the stage. Our life together, the laughter in the kitchen while we were building one of your culinary masterpieces, the way you'd pretend to hate my experimental playlists but always ended up humming them, has been the most beautiful harmony I've ever known. I was the melody, maybe, and you were the steady bass line that kept everything from floating away. But bass lines can learn to soar. You've always said the only time you ever really felt anything all the way through was when you picked up that guitar, or when we sang together until our voices cracked, or when you sat at my feet and let the piano pour straight into that secret place of yours. I loved being the one who got to watch the hollow man light up. I know the rest of the world hasn't had that privilege yet. My gift, the way I can feel what others carry in their quiet places and you only observe, I hope some of it rubs off on you now. Let the music be the door again. Let it open wider this time. The world needs your listening more than it needs another perfectly organized plastic cabinet or another snake tank cleaned just right. I'll see you soon, in the place where our song will never end and the hollow spots fill with light. Keep the music playing for both of us until then. All my love, forever, Alana. In my mind, I was back in that college and career Sunday school class in Athens, early 80s, Alana's parents teaching. Her dad still carried the West African tan from their missionary years. Her mom played piano for the opening hymn. Alana, 21, dark braid, eyes that saw straight through masks. I was the Marine brat raised on my emotionally distant father's mantra. Marines don't care and cowboys don't cry. Get over it. Feelings showed weakness. But I could see, observe, and foresee with unnatural clarity. Alana felt everything. The piano her mother taught her in Africa had become her shield after a python nearly took her life at age 8, and the suffering of hungry, leprous children had pierced her soul forever. Her parents taught that the singularity designed marriage so the two will become one flesh, observer and feeler braided into one unbreakable harmony. We were proof from the first smile. That night I dreamed for the first time since she left. I stand in our living room, but the walls breathe. Wallpaper peels in slow curls like old skin, revealing nothing behind them but deeper nothing. The baby grand is there, keys yellowed, but when I press middle C, it makes no sound, just a puff of dust that smells like jasmine for half a second before it vanishes. My Martin leans against the wall. I grab it, fingers finding the familiar frets out of pure muscle memory, but the strings are slack, mute, dead. Alana? My voice falls flat, swallowed by the room. I try to play the opening of the old Carter family tune we used to sing, the one that always made something hot and bright rise in my throat, but nothing comes. The silence is worse than any scream. The hallway stretches, lengthening with each step until the doorway is a distant pinprick of light. I run. The floor turns to soft earth under my feet, then to cracked pavement, then to nothing at all, and I am falling without falling, suspended in gray. Now I am on an endless road, cutting through a forest where the trees are made of frozen sheet music. Notes hang from branches like black fruit, but when I reach for them, they crumble into ash that blows away on a wind I cannot feel. Her scent drifts past. Jasmine, warm skin, the faint vanilla of the lotion she kept by the sink, but it never lingers. I hear her voice singing our song, faint and beautiful, and I follow it, heart hammering the way it only ever did when music opened me up. The voice leads me into our bedroom, except the bed is a vast empty plain, and the windows look out onto more windows looking out onto more windows, infinite regression of empty rooms. I run through them all. In one, her piano stands in the corner, and I sit down to play for her, desperate to feel that old rush. But the keys turn to sand under my fingers, and the melody dissolves. In another, I see her at the piano, back turned, fingers moving, but no sound comes. And when I call her name, she turns, and her face is my own, hollow-eyed, mouth moving in silent apology. The hopelessness rises like floodwater. It is not dramatic, it is simple and absolute. She is gone, and the only door I ever knew how to open has been nailed shut. The dream shifts again. I am in a vast library where every book bound in leather is a letter she never sent. I pull one down. The pages are blank except for a single line in her handwriting. Keep listening. I drop it, and the floor gives way, and I am standing on the roof of our house at night. Atlanta lights spread below like scattered cords, but every light is going out one by one. I search the darkness for her silhouette. Nothing. Only the wind carrying the faintest fragment of Debussy, a phrase she used to play when she thought I wasn't listening, and even that fades until there is only the sound of my own breathing, ragged and alone. I wake, gasping, sheets twisted around my legs like restraints. Sunlight slanted through the blinds, ordinary and cruel. The letter in my wallet felt heavier than it had any right to. I made coffee I didn't drink, stood at the kitchen window looking at the garden she had planted, roses and jasmine and those ridiculous purple coneflowers she swore brought hummingbirds. The hummingbirds were gone. Everything felt gone. I needed to move. If I stopped, the dream would crawl back in. So I went outside and worked to garden until my hands bled from thorns I didn't bother avoiding. I pulled weeds like they had personally offended me, turned soil that still held the shape of her trowel marks. At one point, I caught myself humming Debussy's Clair de Lune under my breath and stopped cold because the spark tried to flare and there was nothing there to catch it. Then I went to the snake room near the library. 20 glass tanks, heat lamps humming, ball pythons coiled in their hides. I'd started breeding them years ago as a side thing, sell the babies to pet stores, make a little extra for date nights that had become hospice bills. I changed water bowls, dropped in frozen thawed mice, checked the breeding charts taped to the wall. One of the females was gravid, due any day. I watched her slow, deliberate coils and thought, at least you don't need music to feel alive. The wryness tasted like ash, but it was something. Days blurred. I drove the back roads outside the city, stopping at yard sales and estate auctions, buying nothing, just looking for whatnots that might have passed through her hands in some other life. Old crystal vases, mismatched teacups, a music box with a broken ballerina. Each object sent a small electric jolt. She would have loved this. She would have known the story behind it. But the jolts faded faster each time. One afternoon, the truck took me farther than I planned, out past Covington to where the pine woods get thick and the houses get forgotten. I had called the owner about this house, asking if I could search for interesting collectibles. I saw it from the road. An old Victorian, abandoned for decades, paint peeling like the dream walls, porch sagging under wisteria that had gone feral. A for sale sign tilted in the yard, half swallowed by kudzu. No one was around. I parked, walked up the creaking steps, and pushed open the front door because the knob turned and the universe didn't stop me. Inside smelled of dust and old paper and something faintly sweet, like jasmine left too long in the sun. I wandered room to room, floorboards groaning my name. In the parlor, I found a stack of yellowed sheet music, actual Debussy, the same piece. My fingers itched to play it, the old spark flickering like a match in the wind. But there was no piano here, only the paper and the memory of what it used to do to me. I laughed once, that same foreign sound, and pocketed a page. Upstairs, in what must have been a child's room, boxes of toys and trinkets spilled across the floor. I rummaged through them like a man panning for gold that no longer existed. A cracked snow globe with a tiny piano inside, a child's drawing of a snake wearing a hat, a silver locket with no picture. Each item sent a small electric jolt, and each time the jolt died faster. I sat on the dusty floor among the debris, the letter crinkling in my back pocket, and felt the dream press in from the edges of daylight. The house was full of things, but it was empty the way I was empty. The activities, the garden, the snakes, the scavenging, they were just louder versions of silence. I picked up the snow globe, shook it, watched the glitter settle in around the silent piano, and whispered to no one, "I'm listening, Alana. But the only door I knew how to open is gone, and I don't know how to build a new one yet." Outside, the Georgia afternoon stretched long and golden and indifferent. I stayed in that abandoned house longer than I should have, turning objects over in my hands, searching for something that wasn't there, the same way I had searched through my nightmare. Hello again, it's Will. Thank you for joining me on this first glimpse, Alana Goes Home. If the episode touched you, the journey is only beginning. Next time, we meet Lyra, the luminous djinn who offers 3 wishes. This offering changes everything. Sit back, breathe, and let the threads pull you deeper.